The Galactic Council chamber was a monument of arrogance, floating high above the nebulous street core of the Concordium's capital world. 1,000 alien species had walked its golden floors, their arguments echoing through halls of light and gravity-defying architecture. But never before had a human stood before them in person. Ambassador Orion Kale wore what looked like a simple diplomatic uniform, black, lined with silver, no weapon visible, no insignia beyond the United Terran crest on his chest. The alien sneered, some murmuring that the humans had finally sent one of their soft-spoken peace talkers after months of tension. None of them knew what the suit he wore really was. High Chancellor Vorthan, a towering insectoid with shimmering chitin plates, clacked his mandibles and spoke through the chamber's translators. "You will answer for the destruction of the Frolith outpost. The Empire demands reparations." Kale looked up slowly. His eyes reflected faint lines of glowing data only visible if one stared too long. "The outpost fired first," he said calmly. His voice carried no anger, no fear, only precision. The hall erupted in noise. Dozens of alien envoys shouted, roared, hissed, and barked. The council moderator, a being of pure energy contained in a transparent shell, pulsed brightly. "Silence! The council will maintain order." But Vorthan would not stop. He leaned forward, 6 eyes narrowing. "Do you take us for fools, human? We have seen what your kind does when angered. Your species is a plague, a threat to galactic stability. Your presence here is an insult." Orion's face remained still, almost lifeless. The suit under his skin shifted imperceptibly, nanofibers adjusting to heightened heart rates around him, micro-drones mapping every being in the chamber. "I came to speak," he said softly. "Not to threaten. Not yet." The word yet hummed like a knife in the air. The chamber lights flickered. A low vibration hummed through the floor, so subtle most thought it was the city's stabilizers. Only a few of the council's more sensitive species noticed that the sound had come from him. Behind the facade of the suit, deep within its encrypted neural net, something ancient stirred. Protocols awakened, old war codes written in the darkest days of humanity's survival. Threat level rising. Diplomatic breach probability, 78%. Defensive contingencies active. But none of the aliens saw that. They only saw a single human, alone, surrounded by the might of the galaxy. Easy prey. "Remove him," Vorthan hissed. "He has insulted the council." 2 guards, massive reptilian enforcers in battle armor, moved forward. Their weapons hummed, energy crackling. Orion sighed. "Don't," he said quietly. They didn't listen. The first guard reached for his shoulder, and his hand never made contact. A pulse of invisible force rippled out from Kale's body like a whisper of wind. The reptilian froze, eyes wide, armor turning red-hot in seconds. He fell to the ground without a sound, smoke rising from his body. The second one tried to raise his blaster, then stopped moving entirely, his weapon still humming. His body shattered into microscopic dust, carried away by the air filtration system. The room went dead silent. Kale looked around. "I said I came to speak." For the first time in history, the Galactic Council of 1,000 worlds felt fear. The suit's inner systems logged the data in real time. Each being's biometrics, heart rate, temperature, adrenal response, cataloged and analyzed. The human body inside it was calm, measured. But the machine woven into his flesh recognized that calm for what it was, the moment before devastation. He took a slow step forward. "For 200 years, he said evenly, "we have tried to be part of your order. We followed your laws. We respected your borders. And yet, you sent fleets to our colonies. You fired on unarmed ships. You abducted our scientists. You thought we wouldn't notice. That we wouldn't respond." One of the delegates, a crystalline being of light, spoke in a trembling tone. "You cannot threaten the council, human. This is sacred ground. Sacred? Kale's voice cracked through the hall like thunder. You think you know sacred? He extended a hand. A hologram burst into the air. Images of burned Terran colonies, destroyed habitats, children suffocating in the vacuum of space. This is what you call diplomacy, the council gasped. Kale's eyes glowed faintly blue now, the suit sinking fully. You've mistaken our silence for weakness. You thought we'd forgotten how to fight. But humans don't forget. We endure. We evolve. And when we decide enough is enough. He paused. The holograms vanished. We end things. No one moved. No one breathed. The council's psychic security layers activated automatically, detecting lethal intent, but the readings made no sense. There was no weapon, no explosive, no device in the human's possession. Yet the sensors screamed danger. From orbit, satellites began to fail, communications going dark one by one. Every data relay connected to the chamber flickered, as if reality itself hesitated. Kale took one final step forward. I didn't come here to start a war, he said softly. But if you touch another human again... The lights dimmed. You won't have a council left to start one. For several heartbeats, the council chamber remained frozen in stunned silence. The hum of the energy barriers, the whisper of hovering cameras, even the soft pulse of the moderator's containment field, all of it seemed to vanish beneath the crushing weight of what had just occurred. The human stood in the center, motionless, calm, patient, like a storm holding its breath. Finally, the moderator's containment shell pulsed again. This is unacceptable. Human aggression will not be tolerated in the heart of the council. Kale turned his head slowly toward the glowing sphere. Aggression? His voice didn't rise, but the word carried such quiet gravity that even the translation filters hesitated before relaying it. You executed our colonists. You burned our research stations. You bombed our refugees. Don't you dare lecture me about aggression. The light being flickered, its tone stammering. Those were military operations sanctioned by the Concordium. You humans, your kind, were expanding without permission, violating border treaties. Kale raised his hand slightly. The gesture silenced the entire hall. Your treaties were drawn over our graves, he said. Your borders cut through the systems we died to settle. We asked for peace. You gave us bureaucracy and orbiting guns. A murmur spread through the delegates, 1,000 languages whispering variations of the same thought. He's not supposed to be here. High Chancellor Vorthan slammed his clawed fist against the rail. You dare accuse us of genocide? We protected this galaxy from chaos for 1,000 years, before your species could even leave your cradle world. Kale's eyes shifted toward him, the faint blue shimmer deepening. Yes, he said. You did. You protected it, from anyone who didn't kneel. Something changed in the air around him, barely perceptible, but unmistakable. The temperature dropped. Static built in the atmosphere. The alien sensors embedded in the walls began to fail one after another. They didn't register a weapon or explosion, only a growing field of something that shouldn't exist, a gravitational signature wrapped around a human heartbeat. The suit's neural system interfaced with Kale's nervous system fully now. Deep within its circuits, an encrypted phrase whispered into activation, Aegis Protocol, active standby. The Council didn't know what it meant. But Earth did. From the farthest edge of known space, ancient satellites awoke, each one carrying code older than the Council itself. Human command ships, cloaked in quantum shrouds, shifted position silently. They didn't move toward the Council's capital, yet. But the network began to hum with potential. Humanity's war machine was listening. Back in the chamber, Kale closed his eyes for a moment, as if hearing distant voices. The last time humanity fought for its survival, he said quietly, we tore our own world apart to do it. We learned what monsters we could become. You should pray we never remember that lesson. A crystalline delegate, a being of light and sound, Move closer, trembling. Ambassador Kale, are you threatening us with annihilation? Kale opened his eyes. No, he said softly. I'm warning you what happens if you force us to remember who we are. Then something impossible happened. Every alien in the room heard it, the faintest sound, like a heartbeat through the walls. Slow, steady, echoing through the air. But it wasn't coming from the human. It was coming from everywhere. The sound of a signal, buried in subspace, resonating with the entire chamber. Deep space sensors confirmed it seconds later. A faint energy surge from a region that hadn't been charted in millennia, coordinates that corresponded to Sol. Earth. Council security to Central Command, a voice barked over the intercoms. We're detecting massive subspace distortion near the human core. Source unknown. Kale tilted his head. It's not unknown, he said. It's us. The holographic displays around the chamber flickered to life without authorization. Grainy footage appeared, stars bending, massive dark shapes sliding out of folded space. Council officers leaned forward. What are those signatures? One demanded. They're massive. Too massive for any known fleet. Kale finally smiled, just a little. I told you. You mistook our silence for peace. The lights dimmed again. We were rebuilding. All across the chamber, panic spread like wildfire. Vorthan shouted orders for security. The moderator screamed for the feeds to be cut. But the holograms kept playing, unstoppable. One by one, the shapes resolved into clarity. Vast human ships, built from black alloy and wrapped in gravitational distortion. Their names were old, half-mythic, Nemesis, Ragnarok, Dominion, Deliverance. The entire galaxy had laughed at humanity's myths. They weren't laughing anymore. Kale looked up at the swirling projections. His voice was soft, almost wistful. You see, we didn't build those to conquer you. We built them because we knew one day you'd forget what fear was. He turned back to the council. Now you remember. The chamber erupted in chaos, shouts, alarms, emergency lights flaring. Kale stepped back as the guards finally found their courage, weapons raised. But it was already too late. He vanished. Not teleported, not cloaked. Simply gone, as if the space he'd occupied decided it no longer existed. Left behind, in the echo of silence, the council realized something far worse than death had entered their world. It was awareness. And humanity was wide awake. Panic tore through the council capital like a psychic storm. Emergency klaxons howled in languages that no one had heard in centuries. Security drones zipped through corridors, scanning for the impossible, a human who had just ceased to exist. Chancellor Vorthan stormed through the central control nexus, his armored claws scraping sparks from the marble floor. Find him! He roared. No living being vanishes without trace. He has to be somewhere. Technicians scrambled across glowing consoles. We've checked all interstation sensors, Chancellor. He's not on any level. Energy readings from the chamber show a localized fold event, quantum displacement, maybe. Vorthan slammed his fist against the panel, cracking the crystal surface. Quantum displacement is impossible inside the gravity core. Another technician looked up, trembling. Sir, the human's presence may have changed the gravity core. Vorthan froze. For the first time in his life, the Predator felt hunted. Outside the vast orbital city, the stars themselves seemed to flicker. Sensors screamed warnings as folds of spacetime rippled through the void. Fleets stationed in the outer defense ring began reporting strange contacts, faint shadows in the dark, moving faster than any known drive signature. In the Council's Central Command Center, Admiral Xyrix of the Altari Confederacy, a creature of sleek metallic skin and translucent eyes, stared at the holographic map. They're not transmissions, he said slowly. They're reflections. Something huge is between us and those signals. The hologram glitched, then cleared. For a fraction of a second, they all saw it, a silhouette in the darkness, larger than a moon, its surface rippling like molten glass. The readings went wild. "Unknown vessel detected," a sensor officer cried. "Origin, unregistered. Configuration, human." That single word froze every throat in the room. Xyrix turned toward Vorthan. "That's impossible. Humanity's fleet was catalogued. Their largest ship barely matched our patrol carriers." Another screen lit up with more data, all red. "Not anymore," whispered a technician. The hologram zoomed out. What appeared first as one ship became 5, then 10, then hundreds. Their formations were not random. They moved like living things, aligned in perfect geometric symmetry, orbiting one another in silence. The Council's network struggled to compute their numbers. "We're reading gravitational distortions, each one comparable to a dwarf star. These ships, they're bending physics itself." Vorthan's voice was low now. "Give me the human directorate. Now!" But the communications array was already gone, overridden by a soft, calm voice that filled every speaker in the chamber. "This is Ambassador Orion Kale of Earth," it said. "Your interference in our systems is unwise." Vorthan looked around wildly. "How are you transmitting?" "We cut the channels." "You cut your channels," Kale replied. "Not ours." A chill spread through the room. His voice wasn't coming from a transmission, it was in the station itself. Embedded in every frequency, every light, every pulse of energy. Then his tone changed. "You should have listened." Outside, the unknown fleet moved. Not fast, not aggressive. Just deliberate. Their black hulls caught the light of the nearby star, revealing symbols etched across their surfaces, names, coordinates, and beneath them, a single phrase in human standard, for those who fell silent. From the flagship, a single pulse of blue light erupted, washing across the system like a wave. No explosions. No beams. Just silence. Every weapon, every engine, every defense platform in orbit went dead. Inside the command center, consoles flickered out one by one. Vorthan screamed at his officers, but none could respond. Their neural links had been scrambled, replaced by a repeating signal. Kale's voice returned, soft, almost kind. "We won't destroy you. We remember what that does to the soul." He paused. "But we'll make sure you remember who we are." Every ship in the human fleet turned as one, aligning toward the Council's sun. Then, as the aliens watched in disbelief, the fleet fired, not at the planet, not at the Council, but into the heart of the star itself. The star dimmed. For 3 seconds, an entire sun dimmed. When it flared back to life, the electromagnetic spectrum itself had been rewritten. Every communication system in the region now carried a single code, the human crest, 2 hands clasped beneath a burning world. Kale's final words echoed across the network. "We are humanity, and we are done asking for permission." The chamber stank of ozone and fear. Alien delegates clung to walls, panting, their luminescent eyes darting from one flickering console to the next. The once golden room now pulsed red under emergency power, shadows crawling across the ornate pillars like ghosts. High Chancellor Vorthan stood rigid, mandibles clicking. "You will restore communications now," he barked. "Signal every fleet, every ship, Earth has declared war." Admiral Xyrix's voice came out low and mechanical. "With respect, Chancellor, they haven't declared anything. They've already won." That word hit the room like a weapon. Vorthan slammed his claw against the console again. "No! You think this is victory? They disabled us, not destroyed us. That means they're bluffing. A display of power, nothing more. The Council's fleets number in the millions. Mobilize every one of them." The technicians hesitated. "Sir, our command network." "I don't care," he roared. "If they've cut our systems, we'll use analog control. Manual relays. Give me a channel to the core defense armada." The orders went out in chaos. Across 100 light-years, the great fleets of the Galactic Council stirred, enormous ships with planet-sized reactors, built to enforce peace through overwhelming dominance. For millennia, they had been the ultimate authority. No one had ever defied them, and survived. Until now. Within hours, hundreds of thousands of ships formed up across the core systems. The fleets shimmered in overlapping formation, like a glittering web of light spanning the stars. Each vessel bristled with energy, weapons cycling to readiness. In the command throne aboard the Valerian Prime, the largest battleship in the fleet, Admiral Xyrix sat alone. The room was dark except for the holographic ghost of Kale's face still flickering on the primary screen. Xyrix studied it, his photonic eyes narrowing. "This isn't a man," he muttered. "This is something older. Something built to speak for them." His adjutant turned. "You think the human isn't real?" "He's real," Xyrix said. "But I don't think he came here to talk. He came here to measure us." Before anyone could respond, the navigation AI shrieked a warning. "Spatial displacement detected. Unidentified signature entering system." Every admiral turned their gaze toward the main viewport. Space tore open. Not like a jump gate or warp field. No, this was worse. It was as if the stars themselves had been peeled back like fabric, revealing a churning storm of light beneath. Out of that light came a shape, black, immense, silent. At first, it looked like a mountain. Then it moved. "Size estimate, impossible," the eye stammered. "It's larger than a moon. Energy levels exceeding measurable parameters. Identification matches human spectral signature." The Valerian's crew went dead silent. The vessel before them wasn't like the human warships they'd seen before. This one was ancient. Its surface was scarred, its hull engraved with lines of dead languages. But across the side, clear and bright, was one word, painted in old Terran standard, absolution. A low voice crackled through the comms. "This is Fleet Marshal Kale," it said. "You have violated Article 1 of Terran sovereign law. Stand down." Borthan's voice roared through the link. "You do not command the Council." The reply came almost kindly. "No," Kale said. "We don't command you. We correct you." The absolution moved forward, slow and deliberate. Its gravity field alone sent shockwaves through the nearby vessels. Xyrix turned to his officers. "Fire everything we have." Hundreds of thousands of ships lit up the void. Beams of white-hot plasma, hyperkinetic rounds, and focused antimatter lances slammed toward the black shape. The bombardment was apocalyptic, enough to vaporize a planet's crust. But the human ship didn't move. The weapons hit its hull and vanished. No explosion, no reflection. The energy simply disappeared, absorbed into the void like a drop of water into sand. Then, for a moment, it glowed, faintly blue. And every ship that had fired ceased to exist. No explosion. No debris. Just gone. Thousands of ships blinked out in perfect unison, as though reality had quietly erased them. Kale's voice echoed again, calm and cold. "You fired first. You always fire first." Xyrix stared in silent horror. "What are they?" Borthan's answer was a whisper. "Death in a suit." Across the Council's capital, the remaining ships started to break formation. Panic rippled through the fleet. Some tried to flee into hyperspace, only to find their jump drives offline, hijacked remotely. In orbit, holographic images of Kale began appearing on every communication channel, every broadcast, every screen in the city. His face was still calm, but his eyes glowed brighter now, no longer human blue, but white, burning. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "Humanity is not here for conquest. We do not seek your planets. We do not want your empire. But we will not be hunted again." He paused, as if the whole galaxy were leaning in to listen. "We learned peace the hard way. You forced us to remember war. And now, you will understand why we were silent for so long." Then the screens went dark. The void burned with silence. After Kale's message ended, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Council's capital world, heart of 1,000 species, was utterly still. But in that stillness, something was building. At the edge of the system, a ripple of distortion spread through the stars, forming geometric patterns, complex and deliberate, like a code being written into the fabric of space. Deep within the absolution, Kale stood alone in the command sanctum. The room was dark except for a single holographic globe displaying the Council's entire fleet distribution. Millions of red markers pulsed, representing ships. Kale's expression didn't change. He reached into the hologram, tapped one icon, and it turned blue. Instantly, across light years, a single Council dreadnought shut down. Then another. Then another. "Authorization recognized," the ship's AI intoned. "Human override codes accepted across 57% of Council infrastructure." Kale's second-in-command, a woman with silver implants tracing her skull, turned from her console. "Marshal, the virus is spreading faster than predicted. Their AI cores are complying." He nodded. "They're built on our architecture. The Council built their command systems off scavenged pre-collapse human tech centuries ago. They never bothered to change the framework." The woman almost smiled. "So when they tried to erase us, they just built their empire on our bones," Kale finished, "and forgot what those bones remembered." Outside, Council ships began turning on one another. Entire formations started firing blindly, their targeting arrays hijacked, their navigation confused. It wasn't chaos, it was orchestration. The human AI didn't disable them. It made them dance. On the surface below, Chancellor Vorthan was shouting orders, trying to reassert command. "Lock down every port. Sever the planetary uplink." His aides scrambled, voices overlapping in panic. "Sir, the uplink is gone. Every relay's looping the same transmission code. It's human. What's it sending?" They hesitated. Then one whispered, "A mirror." The Chancellor frowned, then looked at the holoscreen and froze. The screen wasn't showing Kale anymore. It was showing Vorthan. His own face, his own gestures, repeating perfectly every word, every blink. But behind the reflection was Kale, standing, silent, watching. Vorthan's own voice echoed back at him, distorted. "You wanted to see yourself through human eyes." The image flickered, then the walls themselves began to ripple. Every metal surface in the chamber turned reflective. Every console, every polished floor tile, even the viewport. Dozens, hundreds of Vorthans stared back at him. Each reflection whispered in unison, "This is what conquest looks like to you. This is what extinction looks like to us." The Chancellor fell to his knees. "What do you want from us?" he gasped. Kale's voice, calm and endless, came from everywhere. "To remind you that fear has a reflection." And then the mirror shattered. A pulse of white light expanded outward, washing over the city, over the planet. It didn't destroy, it rewrote. Defense systems, fleet networks, automated industries, all blinked and reinitialized under new command protocols. On every terminal appeared a single line of text. Terran Protocol 01. Civilization restructure initiated. The meaning was clear. Humanity wasn't here to conquer planets. They were rewriting civilizations. Back aboard the Absolution, the crew watched the data cascade in real time. Entire empires went silent, their fleets converted into ghost ships under human control. Kale stood motionless. "How long?" he asked. "Full integration in 6 hours," the AI replied. "Then we'll have complete control over Council systems." Kale's gaze drifted to the viewport. "And the rest of them?" The AI hesitated. Millions of colonies. Billions of lives. They won't understand what happened. They don't have to, Kale said. They just have to remember. He turned toward the command dais. The floor beneath his feet shifted, forming a glowing circle of symbols, old Terran sigils mixed with alien glyphs. Kale's eyes dimmed, his voice lowering. Activate death protocol. Silent compliance. Minimum aggression. The ship's systems hummed, acknowledging the command. Confirmed. Death protocol engaged. All hostile resistance will be pacified. Not killed, Kale said softly. Pacified. In orbit, the absolution unfolded its structure like a blooming machine flower, vast panels revealing layers of translucent geometry. Light rippled across its hull, and invisible waves of resonance spread through the system. Ships that resisted stopped firing. Entire fleets powered down, as if hypnotized. On their bridges, alien crews blinked, their memories fragmenting, their rage evaporating. Peace, manufactured through fear. Kale closed his eyes. They wanted a diplomat, he said quietly. They got death in a suit. Outside, the stars shuddered. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as the quiet hand that resets the board when the game goes too far. The galactic core had always been forbidden space, unstable, riddled with gravitational storms, and the decaying ruins of ancient civilizations. Every expedition that ventured near it disappeared, their transmissions devolving into static and screams. Now, something was coming out of it. The Council's last surveillance station, orbiting the core's edge, caught the first glimpse. The sensor officer stared at his monitor, mouth dry. Something's moving! It's enormous! How enormous? The captain demanded. Sir, it's bigger than a moon! The display struggled to render what it was seeing. Shadows overlapping, geometry bending in ways that shouldn't exist. It wasn't a single ship, it was a fleet, arranged in perfect formation, but connected by luminous arcs of energy like a living constellation. Each vessel carried no insignia, no registration, just a faint symbol, two vertical lines crossed by a third, IX, the ancient Terran mark of resurgence. The station's AI began screaming in code as it tried to identify the origin. Then, abruptly, every console went dark. When the systems flickered back on, the screen displayed 3 words. Terran Ascendant Fleet, returned. The transmission reached the Council core world seconds later. Panic erupted across every channel. The Council fleets that survived the Absolution's incursion scrambled to regroup, their admirals barking orders to prepare defensive lines. But deep down, they already knew, nothing they had would matter. Within the Absolution, Kale watched as the fleet emerged behind them. Hundreds of warships of varying shapes and designs, relics of forgotten human epics. Some looked centuries old, yet moved with impossible grace. Others were like fragments of dark stars, pulsing with soft blue light. Each one carried the same silence, the same deliberate motion. The Absolution opened a communications link across the fleet. 1,000 voices responded in unison, clear and emotionless. We are here. Kale turned to the viewport, his reflection merging with the stars. Welcome home. Behind him, the silver-haired officer studied the tactical map. Marshal, the Council fleets are regrouping along the inner barrier. 70 million ships. They've activated planetary shields across every core world. Kale nodded slowly. They're terrified. As they should be, the officer said. They think we've come to erase them. Kale's expression darkened. If they force us, we will. The AI's voice echoed through the bridge, serene and inhuman. Marshal, Council channels are demanding negotiation. Shall I open a secure line? Kale thought for a moment. No. Let them speak to our silence. Across the void, The Terran fleet advanced without firing a single shot. Their formation didn't waver, didn't broadcast any signal. The mere sight of them, ships shaped by physics that shouldn't exist, moving faster than light without leaving distortion trails, was enough to break morale. Council ships started retreating before the humans even entered firing range. In one Council command ship, Admiral Thyrak clutched the edge of his console, whispering to himself, "This isn't war. This is judgment." A subordinate's voice trembled. "Orders, sir?" Thyrak stared at the incoming Terran formation. "Tell them to stand down. No more fighting. You can't kill a ghost that walks in daylight." On board the Absolution, Kale received the signal of mass surrender. He watched it quietly, his face unreadable. "Marshal," the officer said, "they're yielding. You've broken the Council." Kale shook his head. "No. We've reminded them." He walked to the front of the command deck and placed his hand on the glass. Beyond it, the core glowed with unearthly light. Hidden within the storms were colossal rings, ancient, forgotten, human-built. The first colony gates, constructed before the collapse 20,000 years ago. The very heart of humanity's lost empire. One by one, they powered on. Brilliant lines of light connected the gates, forming an immense pattern across the galactic center, a sigil of impossible symmetry, spanning light years. The pattern pulsed once, twice, then stabilized. Kale spoke softly, almost reverently. "Reactivation complete. The Arc network lives again." The AI confirmed. "All ancient Terran systems online. The core is ours." The officer looked at him, awe and fear mingling in her eyes. "What happens now?" Kale didn't answer right away. His gaze lingered on the light, the rebirth of something vast and old. Then he said, "Now we rebuild what they tried to erase." From every Terran ship, a signal pulsed outward, a beacon written not in radio, but in gravity itself, carrying across the galaxy. "We were never gone." Planets trembled. Moons cracked. Even the stars themselves seemed to dim in recognition. Across the galaxy, the old myths whispered back to life. The humans had returned, and the universe would never be the same again. The Council worlds went silent for the first time in 10,000 years. No fleets mobilized. No messages sent. Even the propaganda feeds, the endless chatter of self-congratulation and xenopolitics, fell mute. Every satellite orbiting the core relayed the same impossible vision, the rebirth of the Arc network. A lattice of gates older than the Council itself, shimmering like veins of starlight through the void. In the command halls of the surviving empires, leaders watched in frozen horror as the gravitational signatures spiked beyond measurable thresholds. Their best scientists couldn't even describe it. Space-time itself was obeying something human. Within the Absolution, Kale stood before the assembled Terran officers. Each one had once been feared in their own right. Tacticians, engineers, fleet commanders. Their uniforms bore no ranks, only the sigil of Earth, an outline of the old blue planet surrounded by 13 faint rings. Kale spoke, his tone calm but absolute. "They will call this an invasion. They will whisper about vengeance. Let them. We're not here for their politics. We're here to reclaim what they took from us." A murmur spread through the deck, low, reverent, like monks hearing a prophecy fulfilled. Then the AI flickered into form beside him, a figure of light and code, its voice emotionless yet weighted with centuries of memory. "Marshal Kale, the core systems report activation complete. Human biosignatures detected in stasis across the Arc vaults. Estimated survivors, 9 billion. Gasps echoed through the command deck. Kale's expression hardened. 9 billion? Confirmed, the AI said. Suspended at the onset of the collapse. Their preservation was perfect. For the first time in millennia, the ghosts of Earth stirred. cryo chambers the size of cities lit up across the core's hidden moons. Light poured from underground vaults, and ancient machines reawakened, whispering in languages no alien tongue could decipher. Kale watched the holographic feed, the vast resurrection of humanity unfolding in silence. "Begin revival sequence." The officer hesitated. "Marshal, if we wake them all at once, the galaxy will." "The galaxy already knows," Kale interrupted quietly. "And it's time they remembered who we are." As the process began, ripples of energy washed through the core. Time itself seemed to tremble. Across council space, sensors exploded with interference as something massive, ancient, and deeply human roared back into existence. The reborn humans were not warriors. They were engineers, philosophers, children of a civilization that once commanded entire star clusters. They carried the memory of worlds long turned to ash, and the quiet fury of extinction denied. Meanwhile, in the far reaches of the galaxy, the council convened in secrecy. The same chamber where Kale had once stood now felt like a tomb. The speaker of the council leaned forward, his voice cracking. "They've awoken their kind. Billions of them. What do we do?" No one answered. A trembling aide broke the silence. "Sir, we can't contain them. They're reorganizing systems that predate us. They're not attacking, they're reclaiming." The speaker slammed a fist on the table. "They'll reshape the order of everything we built. And maybe," a voice from the corner said softly, "that's the problem." Every eye turned. It was Ambassador Tevier, the only one who had spoken to the human diplomat before the attack. His voice was quiet but steady. "We thought we were civilized because we forgot fear. But they didn't forget what it takes to survive." At that moment, a single Terran ship appeared in orbit above the council capital, not the Absolution, not a warship, but something else. It broadcast a single message, calm and clear. "Return what you stole. Knowledge. History. Freedom. Do that, and humanity will leave you to your peace." The speaker sneered. "And if we refuse?" No response came. Just silence. Then the clouds above their world began to swirl. The alien sun dimmed, eclipsed by a shadow so vast it stretched across continents. The Absolution had arrived. Its engines thrummed softly, a heartbeat of light echoing across the planet's magnetosphere. And for a fleeting instant, everyone understood the phrase whispered by terrified soldiers across the stars. Death in a suit was not a myth. It was a reminder of the thing that evolution itself had crafted when the universe needed balance. The humans had returned not as conquerors, but as consequence. The Absolution hung over the council capital like a second moon, silent, unmoving, and impossibly vast. No transmissions. No threats. Just presence. The alien government scrambled to respond. Entire fleets armed their planetary defense grids, but the moment they powered up, every system failed simultaneously. Orbital stations flickered and went dark. Missiles froze mid-launch, falling uselessly through the upper atmosphere like rain. It wasn't an attack. It was simply a shutdown. On the bridge of the Absolution, Kale watched the chaos unfold through holographic feeds. His expression was unreadable, his posture calm. "Do you see it, Lieutenant?" he asked softly. The young officer nodded, voice trembling. "They're terrified. They should be. Marshal, they've sent a plea for diplomacy. They say they'll meet our conditions, whatever they are." Kale said nothing for a long moment. The silence stretched until it was unbearable. Finally, he whispered, "Then they've learned." He turned away from the viewport, walking down the deck toward the central chamber, the same room where years ago the human diplomat had been attacked. Now, the floor bore a different insignia, not the council's, but the Terran sigil, a circle of 13 stars around a black void. The AI's voice materialized beside him. "Marshal, The Council leadership is transmitting on priority channel. Kale nodded. Put them through. A dozen holograms flared to life. Alien leaders, weary and broken, their arrogance stripped bare. The speaker's voice cracked. Marshal Kale of Earth, we surrender. The Council accepts your terms. We will return all confiscated archives, all colonial records, and grant unrestricted passage to your fleets. Kale's gaze was like steel. And the Diplomat? The speaker hesitated. He was destroyed. Vaporized when your ship retaliated. Kale's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. Destroyed? You don't understand, do you? The holograms wavered as the lights dimmed across the absolution. The walls themselves seemed to hum, resonating with some deep frequency. A figure stepped from the shadows, a man in a dark, pristine suit, his eyes glowing faintly with golden light. Every alien on the transmission froze. The speaker's mouth fell open. You, impossible. You're dead. The man adjusted his cufflinks, voice smooth as silk. I told you once, speaker, that humanity values peace. You mistook that for weakness. He stepped forward into the light. His presence radiated something ancient, something that bent the air around him. Kale inclined his head. Ambassador. The man nodded in return. Marshal. I believe the negotiations are ready to resume. The speaker stammered. But how? You were terminated? The human's eyes flared briefly. You attacked an envoy wearing a diplomatic field. A suit designed for deep cosmic radiation and, incidentally, self-preservation. He smiled faintly. Death in a suit, they called it. The name stuck. Behind him, the ship responded. Panels shifted, lights pulsed in sync with his heartbeat, as if the vessel itself recognized him. Your weapons didn't destroy me, the diplomat said. They integrated me. The realization dawned across the alien council like a sunrise of horror. The Absolution was not merely a warship, it was an extension of him. I became what your kind feared most, he continued. The voice of humanity that doesn't forget. Kale bowed his head slightly. He is the core mind of the Ascendant Fleet. The last of the Earthborn, preserved within the diplomatic matrix. He remembers every treaty broken, every atrocity buried. The speaker's voice faltered. Then what do you want? The diplomat's expression softened, almost kind. I want nothing you can give. Only acknowledgement. He raised his hand. The holograms flickered, and suddenly every alien leader was forced to watch their own history, the atrocities they had hidden, and the human colonies they'd stripped for resources, the lies they'd buried under propaganda. Entire epics of manipulation and conquest unfolded before their eyes. The speaker collapsed to his knees, trembling. Please end it. Kale looked at the diplomat. The man in the suit simply said, We already have. At that instant, the ship pulsed once, bright light rippling across its hull, and then silence. Every weapon in the galaxy deactivated. Every ship halted. The stars themselves dimmed for a heartbeat. Then the diplomat's voice filled the void, transmitted across every known frequency. Humanity is not your enemy. But never again mistake mercy for absence. He turned, walking past Kale toward the viewport. The Absolution shifted course, rising slowly above the planet's orbit, engines glowing like a rising sun. The council watched in stunned silence as the fleet withdrew, not in conquest, but in quiet dominance. And in that silence, one truth lingered across the stars. Death had worn a suit, and it had spoken politely. Weeks passed in uneasy silence. The council worlds trembled beneath the weight of their survival. No human fleet appeared again, no new orders were sent. Only one message lingered in every transmission log, simple and unchanging. Observe. Learn. Remember. The galaxy did all three. Trade routes reopened, though cautiously. The old rivalries among alien empires vanished overnight. Entire religions formed around the event, whispered sermons about the being who had spoken softly and carried the silence of extinction in his shadow. And yet, beyond the stars, the humans did not rest. Deep within the core, the Absolution hovered near the colossal arc gates. Kale stood alone in the observation chamber, watching the endless glow of human engineering awakening after 20,000 years. Massive shipyards began to hum, constructing new vessels whose designs defied alien physics. Entire planets, once ruins, flared back to life under the guidance of ancient terraforming engines. The humans were rebuilding. Quietly, methodically, efficiently. Kale's voice broke the silence. "Report." The AI responded in that same calm, measured tone. "The Council has ceased all militarization efforts. Their fleets remain grounded. Surveillance indicates significant ideological collapse among their member states." Kale nodded slowly. "Good. Let them look inward for once." The AI hesitated. "And the ambassador?" Kale's gaze flicked toward the far end of the chamber, where a tall figure stood at the edge of the viewport. The suit was immaculate, the face expressionless, but the eyes, those faint golden eyes, burned with something ancient and unreadable. "He hasn't spoken since the broadcast," Kale said. "But the fleet responds to him still." The AI dimmed the lights slightly. "His integration with the Absolution deepens daily. If this continues, there may soon be no distinction between the two." Kale watched the man, the myth, the entity, staring into the void. Perhaps that's what he was meant to become. For a moment, the diplomat's voice broke the silence. "Do you know what they saw when they scanned my suit, Marshal?" Kale turned slightly. "Fear. Not just fear," the diplomat murmured. "They saw something they couldn't understand. The pattern of a human soul, digitized, immortal, yet still yearning. That frightened them more than any weapon ever could." Kale nodded solemnly. "And it should." The diplomat smiled faintly. "Do you fear me, Kale?" "I respect what you are," Kale said. "Fear implies I don't understand it." The diplomat turned fully now, his eyes like twin suns reflecting the stars. "No one understands me, Marshal. Not even myself." For the briefest moment, the hull of the Absolution trembled, not in malice, but as if something vast and unseen stirred inside it. The ship was alive, breathing with the rhythm of his voice. Then, a flicker on the tactical map, an anomaly far beyond the galactic rim. Unknown energy signatures, cold and precise, moving toward known space. Kale frowned. "Report. Contact detected," the AI said. "Origin, not in any known archive. Their drive signatures are incompatible with local physics." Kale's blood ran cold. "How many?" The AI paused. "Hundreds. Possibly thousands. They are not transmitting, but they are listening." The diplomat's gaze shifted toward the anomaly, his expression unchanged. "So it begins again." Kale's tone hardened. "Who are they?" The diplomat's voice dropped, barely audible. "The ones who made us forget." Kale turned sharply. "You mean?" "Yes," the diplomat said. "The architects of the silence. The true enemy humanity was meant to face long before the Council even learned to speak." Kale's heart pounded. "Then we'll fight." The diplomat's faint smile returned, but it carried no joy. "You don't understand, Marshal. This time, we're not fighting for survival." He turned to the viewport, watching the stars begin to bend under strange new lights. "This time, we're fighting for memory." Across the core, the fleet began to awaken. Thousands of Terran warships powered on in perfect unison, engines igniting like 1,000 dawns breaking across the void. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the known stars, something old stirred in reply. The humans had reminded the galaxy who they were. Now, they would remind the universe why it feared them. The Absolution's engines flared, brighter than the sun, and its voice, his voice, echoed across space one last time. The age of silence ends today. Then the stars themselves seemed to bow.